Greetings from Detroit for Fest. 2021 has been an awesome weekend so far. And speaking of awesome, I have an awesome panel of folks from around the industry, from around all things off-road, from military to some of the greatest guys around the off-road community, and some new guys, fresh on the scene of off-road. Let me go around and introduce everybody. John Warniak, our awesome host throughout this whole weekend, and really the guy who put these awesome panels together. Thank you, John. Nate Bulow from Jeep. Nate has been a supporter of Detroit 4Fest from before we even had a name, Detroit 4Fest. Enormous amount of credit goes to Jeep for making this a reality. So I want to thank Nate personally for that and for his awesome support over this whole process. Thank you. Dave Cole, a guy who's been kind of a hero to me. I hate to sound like a fanboy, Dave, but man, held up on a pedestal. Creator of King of Hammers. For those that don't know what King of Hammers is, perhaps the sketchiest off-road event of all. And that's what makes him a hero to me, because I'm a big fan of sketchy.
Yeah, we're sketchy.
We all need more sketchy in our life.
He's going to shirt.
Hey, I stole one of Dave's lines yesterday, so now it's his turn to take a sketchy line away.
You can keep sketchy, it's fine.
Dr. David Gorsuch. He's with the U.S. Army and does the development of all the land-based vehicles. It's an honor to have somebody from our armed services with us, so thank you, Doctor. Appreciate that a lot. Mike Sipe from our good friends Rancho right across the street here. Thank you, Mike. It's been awesome to have you here. We get to see each other fairly often at off-road events, so we spend a bit of quality time together. Brand new to the scene, Jake Hawksworth. You're going to hear this name and his colleague John often. They've got Hypercraft going. I'm going to let him talk about what's up, but it's very intriguing, and I think it's going to be a wonderful addition to our off-road community. Esteban, thank you for joining us. Always good to have you on board. Obviously, there's some excitement around Bronco at this moment, and I think that that's a burgeoning thing that's awesome for all of off-road, and I think it's going to bring up all of the ships and really make it more exciting in the entire off-road space. I think it's wonderful. Carlos Mojica, he comes to us from the LaFontaine Automotive Group. LaFontaine is one of the larger automotive groups, to be sure, here in metropolitan Detroit, and I don't know, the way that you guys are growing, we may be having a much broader conversation at some point. As a former retail guy, it was really important to me to include some stuff from the retail element because I think it's vital. With that, enough about me talking. Let's have these guys take over and have at it. I want to hear some cool bench racing, guys.
Well, thank you, Z-Man. Again, welcome back to Detroit Fest. How many folks were here yesterday? Good. They got repeat audience. Very good. Yesterday we took kind of a wide-ranging conversation and discussion about the technology, the marketing, and the lifestyle trends. So I'm going to kind of paraphrase that. Say we talked a lot about the content, what's happened with off-road racing and off-road performance. Today we're going to take a little deeper dive. We're going to certainly talk about the content. But today, with folks like Esteban and Carlos from the dealer side and from the brand side, we're going to get into the context of that. And for those of you in my head, the content is basically the packaging of basically the technology and the products. The context is basically the packaging of the consumer and the social part of it, branding and the social context. We're going to talk about that as well. We're also going to talk about the trends that are actually enabling faster, smarter, cooler, and safer. And we're going to take a little detour today as well, and not just talk about new vehicles, new cars and trucks and SUVs, but old vehicles. I was very fortunate to have Neil Young as one of my keynote speakers at the SEMA show, and this goes back to 2010 was the first time he did that. And he made a comment while we were walking through the aisles, and he said, you know, John, an old car can take you to new places. Very profound. And what he meant was putting these technologies, and we'll talk about those today, on an older vehicle really does upscale, upcycle, upgrade that vehicle And you're seeing a lot of that here at 4Fest today. So you're seeing a lot of cool technologies that are new, but basically applied to an older vehicle. So we'll talk about that as well. So we're going to take, just like yesterday, we'll do the format. Will be each of the speakers will have 2 to 3 minutes to, again, reintroduce themselves, and more importantly, the key messages, key remarks, insights, or ideas they want to share with you today. So we're going to start with you. Me.
Great. Well, thank you. And hello, everybody. Thanks for coming out to 4Fest today. Obviously, a fantastic event, an incredible line just to get in here. I think I got here just in time because there's so many people wanting to come in and experience this off-road park. And thanks to everybody else that's here and a part of this event. I think it's been great. So a brief intro on myself. My name is Nate Bulow. I'm with the Jeep brand. Work on all of our marketing and comms here. As Tom said earlier, we've been a part of this since before it even existed, before the park was even open to the public, and we couldn't be more thrilled. I think if you look over the fence, you get to see just a small subsample of how passionate the enthusiast core is for off-roading and how many new vehicles that are coming out and are out here every day. So for us, that's what makes us so excited, I should say, about being a part of this and manufacturing some awesome vehicles that obviously can go out here and do all this off-road stuff that we all love and can't wait to enjoy.
Thank you, Nate. Dave.
My name is Dave Cole. I'm the co-founder of King of the Hammers, which is an off-road race and event out in California, and Ultra 4 Racing, which is a series that races around North America, Europe, and other places. But I'm really happy to be out here. It was really cool yesterday. I got to drive around with Henry from the Detroit Free Press, right? That was fun. And had a great time. Drove around in Broncos. First time I really got to beat up in a Bronco. I've driven around the desert a very little bit, but mostly when you guys weren't looking. And yesterday you were looking and I was a little nervous. But it worked out and I had a great day and I got to meet some really cool people, and I'm going to shut up so that guy right down there can talk more, because everything he says is really cool.
Yeah, cool
no
stuff.
No offense to everybody else, but the stuff that they're doing, the EV stuff, is absolutely awesome.
Yeah,
so
what's now, what's new, and what's next? We will be talking about that, definitely.
Absolutely.
One comment, though, is Henry Payne from Detroit News yesterday had his Sasquatch Bronco. And Dave was the first one to make it up Bronco Hill, I think, in a stock vehicle. And I believe Henry's returning that vehicle to Jim Farley tomorrow. So it might be washed, but I would check it out, really.
So the most capable vehicle in the world isn't a JL and it isn't a Bronco. It's a rental car with full insurance.
There you go. You could have gotten that up, Bronco Hill. So. Well, thank you, Dave. So it's going to be Dave and then David. So Dr. David Gorsuch, U.S. Army Futures Command.
Yeah, thanks, John. I really appreciate you inviting me to this panel today. I mean, this is a great event. I didn't really realize what we're doing out here until I came, and I really was like, wow, this is great. I'm the Chief Scientist of the Army for Ground Systems, and what I worry about every day is the performance and reliability of our tactical and combat vehicles. And getting out here and seeing what a vehicle can do is what we do every day for the Army, trying to understand their performance. And, I just love getting out there. I just was on the course. And, of course, I knew that vehicle that was going to make it through the course. But, one of the things I always worry about is when we get our vehicles really heavy with armor, can they still make it through that course or not? And we did a lot of time in Iraq and Afghanistan, putting a lot of armor on vehicles. And, the soldiers would tell us, I don't want that. I want to be able to move around. I want to get off road, and because that road is where the bomb's going to be. And you keep putting armor on this, but this vehicle gets stuck off road. So I've really enjoyed looking at the mobility problems of our vehicles and enhancing their mobility, predicting how mobile they'll be. And these courses are exactly the place you want to go to see what they can do. So glad to be here. Thanks, John.
Glad to have you here, David. As a lot of our Z-Man, my good friend Ricky Johnson, the racer, says you got to be fast enough to get away from the bad guys, but you got to be fast enough to get in and support your troops as well. So we'll talk about that. Cool. Thank you, David. Mike, you're back again. You had a lot of points yesterday. So.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me back. Hey, welcome to the Michigan area. If you're not from here, this is my home state. I'm Mike Sipe. I'm the brand manager for Rancho Suspension, 66-year-old company. We've been around almost as long as Jeep has, so a lot of off-road heritage out there. I'm just happy to be here. When I think about 4Fest, I think about, again, my local state, but just the opportunity in Southeast Michigan. I just learned the other day, this is actually not considered quite Southeast. We're like South Mid-Michigan now. I was at a buddy's house. We picked up the Flint news. So I was kind of like, oh, wow, the Flint. Holy cow. So anyways, I'm digressing here. But anyways, Mike, looking forward to talking to all of you.
Good. Glad to have you back. And next up is Jake Hyper. We'll call him Hyper Jake. Please, Hypercraft Jake.
Thanks, John, and also a big thanks to Tom. We are new to this event, the first time for me, and really excited to be here, see everybody, kind of get a feel for the culture. I am the CEO of Hypercraft, a company that is working to bring the electric propulsion technology to industries like off-road, to inspire creatives, makers, innovators to do really cool things with electric. So we design and develop complete turnkey EV drive systems. So we're out here working, building new relationships, and excited to participate. So thank you for having us here.
Yeah, glad to have you here, Jake. Esteban, what's going on with Bronco?
Yeah, so thanks for having me here. Like other people on the panel, it's been really awesome to see this park come together. We've been a part of the journey as well, and seeing it go from an idea to all these people out here having a great time has been awesome to see. And yeah, so Bronco, we're launching Bronco. We're bringing Bronco back. Ford has obviously had a great 4x4 portfolio in the past, which has primarily been based around our trucks and SUVs, and we're super excited to be bringing Bronco and Bronco Sport into our portfolio and further developing those 4x4 capabilities within the Ford brand. So thanks for having me, and looking forward to the panel.
Well, glad to have you here, and particularly with Nate, because we got to have Jeep, and we got to have Bronco, and it's good you're on both ends of the stage. A little buffer there in between. Absolutely. Gian Cadiz was very gracious with that yesterday as well. So, Carlos, I mean, you got to sell these things, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is awesome. My name is Carlos Mojica. I'm the Retail Development Senior Manager for the LaFontaine Automotive Group. We have 28 stores in Michigan. And this is so cool to be here, up here on the stage, but also be a part of this event, having the manufacturers here, having the aftermarket world here, have the events here. I mean, from my perspective as a retailer, it's all about the consumer experience. And I'm so proud to represent brands that listen to consumers, right? And also be able to provide aftermarket parts to those consumers to meet the demand. It's just absolutely amazing, and so happy to be here. I live in Waterford, which is 20 minutes up the road, so I'm a local guy. I grew up at Mount Holly and Pine Knob, and just to be here today is absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Glad to have you here. So, quite a diverse group. We're going to dive right into some of the things. I will apologize right up front. Dave and Jake have to leave at 1:30, so they got to catch it out to the airport. So they're going to leave at 1:30, but we'll continue on to 2 o'clock. So no worries. Let's dive right in. Let's, as I mentioned, the different types of thinking. Today is different. Obviously, we have so many different things, particularly post-COVID. And two of the biggest areas are what I'm going to kind of bucket with what I call design thinking, which again is the packaging of the product and the technology content. The other is the social thinking, which is the packaging of the consumer and social context, and putting it in. So we're going to start with you, Carlos, in the brand, in this case, Zott Automotive. Automotive Group, in the branding around some of that. But tell us a little bit about how the brand, and to me the brand is kind of your reputation. What are you guys doing in the off-road with
Yeah,
Zott
I mean,
Automotive?
it's LaFontaine, but it's no big deal. Zott's a good friend of ours, fellow competitors, and I think what's really important is, representing the brand, the way that the brand has established itself, and following their guidelines of how they want their vehicles to be, educated upon. I mean, we talk to consumers every day, and we have to be able to bring that technology, those features and benefits to the consumer. And now what we're doing now is not just the face-to-face, but we're doing things through, Zoom meetings and, everything through FaceTime or Zoom or email or text. I mean, technology's changed everything. And what we're able to do now is communicate to them a little bit further. COVID really, kind of put us in the pinch, but we were able to re-identify ourselves. And we're really finding new ways to communicate with guests and understand what they want, what they can afford, right? And then how to upfit them to where they can go right from the dealership out to the track or out to the trail. And it's been such a fun journey working with, great suppliers and upfitters that, help put that together. Experience is everything with the consumer.
And I stand corrected. Yeah, Zott Automotive, no. LaFontaine Automotive, yes. But both Zott and LaFontaine are here, so glad to have you both here. So Esteban, about the branding and the connection, the emotional connection that Bronco has. I mean, we tried to get John Bronco here, but I guess I still too fictitious. So, but we've got you. So tell us about the brand.
I'll do my best to do my John Bronco. I think one of the things when we were bringing Bronco back that was really interesting was we did do some research around Bronco and what Bronco means to customers. And one of the things that really stood out for me was everyone had a Bronco story. So you would talk to customers and they'd be, oh, my uncle had one and we would go hunting in it, or my grandpa had one when I was growing up, and everyone had this connection to Bronco, and it still resonated as a rugged 4x4 brand. That's foremost what they associated with it. So we obviously wanted to lean into that when we brought Bronco and Bronco Sport back. So we went with the tagline, Built Wild. That's something that we've stood behind, and we've done a bunch of stuff around that, including the Wild Fund, which is all about giving back to the outdoor community and making sure we preserve nature and wilderness for future generations to access it.
Yeah, that's great. Matt Caldwell was here yesterday from Tread Lightly, and that stewardship of the lands, etc. So obviously we got to give you a chance, Nate, on the brand of Jeep and a combination of basically the enthusiasts and fans that are here.
Absolutely, and I think our fans do a better job of telling the story than I ever will. So for all of those that are out there, our dealer partners and a great partner in LaFontaine Group, you can see just right behind us all the customized Jeeps that they're selling. I mean, that's really what our brand's all about. I mean, 80 years of uninterrupted history, outdoors, off-road, all of these enthusiasts that are out here, all makes and models. You know, we're really happy to talk to different audiences, and I think our dealer partners can really highlight that, and everything from a V8 Wrangler to a hybrid Wrangler to all the diesels and gas engines in between, a truck. That's what makes us excited, right? And it isn't just a Wrangler and Gladiator Outdoors 4x4 capability message. It's our full lineup. So for us, that's who we are, right? We've got dirt under our fingernails and scars on our knuckles from working on all these Jeeps, and I'm not just talking about myself. Goes all the way through our engineering core, because that's who we are and that's really what we represent. But again, we owe it all to our fans, our owners, this community out here, because without you, we don't exist. So that's my biggest thanks for being an owner. Thanks for keep upfitting your Jeeps and working with all our great partners here along the way. And we're just excited to get back out on the trails once we wrap this panel up.
Absolutely. I remember we went out last year.
Yep.
I was over, I think it was in the Moab area, pulling them over the cement. It was awesome. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. But again on the branding, I think brand means a lot of different things to different people, but I think the best definition I ever heard was from Colin Baden, CEO of Oakley. And he said the best definition of your culture, the best measurement of your brand is the culture. When you think about that, Dave, we're going to jump to you. King of the Hammers is its own brand, and the culture of King of the Hammers, and what you've grown there.
Yeah, I think it's really just a microscope or a magnifying glass on the off-roading culture in general. We didn't make the culture. It already existed. It existed no matter if you're wheeling here. I mean, I've been fortunate to wheel pretty much around the world, and everywhere I go, you meet the exact same person, just a different accent. I mean, they all hang out the same. They all have the same values. They all value the land the same way. They all want to build their vehicles, and it's the same no matter where you go. And so King of the Hammers is just a really big party with the same people. It's kind of fun.
And it is that culture. As Nate
Absolutely
mentioned,
that culture, yeah.
bare
Well,
knuckles and getting in.
and it started with the racers, because we had racers before we had fans, obviously, and the racers knew they had to rely on each other to get back. We were a no-chase race. No one could come and run and help you out in the field. So the racers became cognizant of the camaraderie between themselves and their peers, because at some point you're always going to be the guy that needs help. So if you decide to be that guy, eventually that karma is going to come back.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, and then and obviously a lot of the automakers, like in this case Jeep and Ford with Bronco, couldn't do it without the suppliers, Mike. I mean, Rancho suspension and some of the things that you guys are doing, the e-axles we heard about yesterday from Magna. So yeah.
So when I think of Rancho and branding, with all that, and just the paradigm when we look at Rancho's 66 years of being in business, it's hard to kind of shift the focus of these younger people. I say younger, I'm in my mid-40s, I'll admit it. So, but the younger people that, wait, who's Rancho again? It's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I grew up in the 80s, we all knew who Rancho was, right? And so my task now has been, how do we convert those new customers to understand who Rancho is and what we do, and understand that heritage and where we've been and where we're going. So, but Yeah, back to what you guys were talking about before, the post-COVID stuff. We talked about a little bit yesterday, and just getting out and being outdoors is such the trend right now. I mean, go try to find a rooftop tent right now. Good luck, right? It's impossible. So, in supply base, for us, oh my gosh, what a disaster it's been, right? And literally on calls every day, going through how do we get product to customers? And not only on the Rancho side, but the OE side as well. So Tenneco is an $18 billion company. We've been in business for a long time, and we're trying to keep from shutting down our big friends at the big three every day. And it's been a battle. So definitely an adventure. Definitely an adventure. It's been the last 18 months.
Absolutely, and that brand democracy you guys are talking about, as Nate said, and Esteban said, turning it over to the fans, it's storytelling. Letting the fans tell your story is the best way for your brand to get out there and to go viral, and that perception becomes a reality. So, Jake, we're going to switch it up now and talk about, so if that's kind of what's now, we're going to talk about what's new and what's coming, what's next. We're going to talk about some of the things that are happening, particularly electrification. We'll talk about the 4xe and some of the Mach-E and some of the Illuminator package that you guys have at Ford, Esteban. But Jake, tell us more about Hypercraft and some of the things that you're going to have out at King of the Hammers and Baja.
Yeah, thanks, John. I kind of really like this conversation about culture, because there's a culture of innovation and creativity in off-road, and you can see that through what people do with Jeeps and Broncos, and the OEMs are doing such a great job, and they're also doing a great job rolling out this new technology, this new propulsion type that we have, which is electric. But there's also kind of a grassroots side and racing motorsports side that is looking to kind of leverage those benefits and this new technology. And right now there's this access gap. There's a lot of great things, but it's a complex technology. It requires a lot of new education with safety. And so Hypercraft is working with sanctioning bodies and racing organizations like, Dave, King of Hammers, to really work hard to not only provide the solution of a complete engineered EV drive system that creatives can take and put into anything that they want, but to do it in a really safe way and inspire people through the creativity and innovation of what these vehicles are capable of doing. And so, that's kind of our message and our story, is that, there is an electric choice. Right now there's an internal combustion choice, but for a lot of people that are looking to what's coming, which electric is coming, and we see that through what the OEMs are doing, they're also like, hey, is there an electric choice? And so the DIY stuff that's happening is kind of interesting, but some of it's a little bit scary, and so we're... Sketch, yeah. And so we're going to lean on, well-engineered products to do some really cool performance things and really do some exciting things. So King of Hammer stuff, some off-road high-speed truck racing in Baja, and so Hypercraft is involved in some projects that we're really excited to roll out to the off-road community and say, electric is here, it's viable, there's crazy benefits, and let's go do some cool things.
Absolutely. It's what Cal Wells calls a land missile, the trophy trucks. And when our EV electrification comes to basically the off-road vehicles like that, you're going to see instant torque, like the GMC EV Hummer, 11,000 foot-pounds torque.
Yeah, one thing to add too, John, is right now there's this range and durability side of what electric is. There's range anxiety, there's durability anxiety to it, and one thing that Hypercraft can do is help tell the story that there's ways to solve it, and what they're capable of, and help kind of boost the consumer perception of what the OEMs are doing on the side of consumer vehicles, to say that this is a great technology and there's a lot of benefits to having it. So.
Oh yeah, their money is total. You cannot get an internal gas combustion engine program approved at the OEs without jumping through all sorts of high hurdles. But if it's EV, yes. So David, obviously the military, very interested in the off-road technology that all these guys are working on. Tell us about some of your electrification and some of even the autonomous stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, so for us, our ultimate customer is the soldier. And so we want to give them the latest state-of-the-art technology in a reliable way, and give them the highest performance vehicles that we give them, even if it's at added cost. And of course, we are constantly electrifying our vehicles. We need to add all kinds of equipment to the vehicles, to even like active protection systems to avoid incoming missiles, and you name it. And those drive higher electricity demands on those platforms. So we're looking at increasing the voltage on the buses, as well as integrated starter generators to give those vehicles the power they need. We still see ourselves using diesel and JP8 fuels out there from an energy density perspective, because you're not going to find a place to plug in an M1 Abrams tank and charge it on the battlefield. So there's not necessarily any infrastructure. So maximizing energy density, provide as much onboard power as you can to support all the electronics equipment and things on the current state-of-the-art vehicles is really key to us. So we found ways to really provide those power in those vehicles, and we can even see those vehicles as power generation stations, and you can pull those vehicles up to a base and power up the base instead of bring along generators along with you. So we're working on that for all the soldiers, and we're really making good progress in that space.
We're going to dig deep into that. As I said earlier, that Dave Cole and Jake have to leave, but so we're going to go to the last question with you guys right now, so you got a little bit of time to get your last comments and messages in. What's the most important thing that Detroit 4Fest, people that are here, need to know about today and what you're doing, in this case, at King of the Hammers?
I mean, this is where we're talking about jumping off a cliff and building a parachute. I won't throw you completely under the bus or driving the bus, but it was for me, when I come to a place like this, I get to meet fans, I get to meet the people that are out there that are doing it, and people I get to go wheeling with, or I will go wheeling with. And then I also meet people inside the industry, and we get to kind of geek out on cool stuff and figure out ways to make stuff even cooler. And I've been kind of pushing pretty hard to get EV technology into King of the Hammers, and the way that, to me, the bottleneck is getting the technology into the hands of the guys that know how to build chassis, know how to race, know how to design things, but all the EV stuff is just Bluetooth black magic. You don't know how you're ever going to work with it. So what we want to do is provide basically a spec powertrain package. It's a 150 horsepower motor. It's a battery that's going to last for an hour driving that motor, and a controller and everything necessary from like basically the motor output back up to the gas pedal, to the accelerator pedal, right? And so to the go juice. So if we can give that as a spec package out, and it's all completely lined out, then you can worry about building the chassis that you already do, and then we can get you into the technology. Once there's 10 people working with the technology, that'll spurn off 100 people, and then the 100 become 1,000, the 1,000 become 10,000, and then all of a sudden it's not that big of a deal. And so that's what I'm excited to go forward on and doing, and this show specifically introducing people that can make it happen. So very exciting.
And being that catalyst to King of the Hammers, so thank you. The entire industry thanks you for moving that needle for us, so thank you. Jake, final words before you have to look.
Yeah, I think one of the messages that we want people to know is that there are people working in the industry, and guys like Dave working to bring this new technology and continue advancing and innovating, and doing it in a really safe way as well. But that electric propulsion is going to be a choice, and people will have access to it. Innovators will have access to it, and it's happening very, very soon. And that's exciting, and so we're a huge part of that. We're excited to be a part of it, and excited to work with the rest of the industry to make it happen.
Well, thank you guys for being here. I know you guys got to catch that plane, so if we got you out of here on time, and thank you. Good. Cheers, guys. Travel safe, and thanks, Dave. Thank you, Jake. Adios. So that's cool. So electrification, I think we can't not talk about some of the packages, like the 4xe as well as the Illuminator package. So let's start off with the 4xe. I mean, is there one out here? Did you bring one out?
I've had it out the past 3 days, so I figured I'd give it a little bit of a rest. Brought my JK out, but I've had my 4xe for a year, and it's been absolutely awesome. For those of you that haven't had the chance to wheel an electrified vehicle, it's absolutely an incredible experience because you get all of the torque right on demand, and it's absolutely quiet. My favorite thing to do is that the first time I took mine out was up north, right? I was just wheeling in the UP with it. Put into electric mode, and all you hear is the snow crunching beneath you. It's absolutely incredible. It blows your minds. And top off, doors off, next level experience. So it's been great. We're actually partnering with the Rebel Rally. We'll have 2 racers out in 4xEs here in just another week, and they'll be out there tooling around in them. So entering into that new electrified class that I know Jake had to leave, but he was talking about that. We're pushing, that's where the industry is going, and honestly, I encourage everybody to go take out an electric vehicle off-road. It's absolutely incredible and a total game-changing experience.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think consumers are going to love it.
They have. I mean, it's the best-selling plug-in hybrid in America right now. I mean, that's saying something when you look at the competition, not just SUVs, not just 4x4s, the best-selling period. So, really good signs for us in terms of consumer adoption.
That's fantastic. And I think last I looked, there were like 13 different variants of the Jeep.
Yeah, give or take. Give or
So-
take. You throw some color combos, short, long. There's probably a few million, but
Combinations, absolutely.
oh my gosh.
13 major variants.
Yeah.
How many of the Bronco, Esteban? How many different variants of the Bronco?
We have quite a few. I mean, especially if you're considering Bronco and Bronco Sport together. Obviously, a brand that we're very excited about at Ford. And to your point on electrification, it's very much something that we're all in with Ford. We have the Mustang Mach-E that's out there electrifying our Mustang icon. We have the Lightning that's going to come out shortly, electrifying another one of our icons, and then one that gets a little less press is the Transit van that's going electric. But very much committed to electrification at Ford, and I agree with all the comments that have been said. Once you drive one, it's really a game changer, and it's a unique experience. I think customers we're starting to see the pull from the customers versus it being kind of a regulatory push model.
And to me, it's amazing, being an engineer, how we kind of leaped over the hybrid section. If you're going basically from internal gas combustion engines to plug-in hybrids, and basically pure plug-ins, battery electric, full battery electric. I'm surprised at that. Any comments? Do you see anything that, Mike, at Rancho? I mean, jumping and nothing.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity at the Jeep Jamboree to run Rubicon with your global brand manager, Christian.
Yeah, Christian, our global CEO.
Yeah, so I spent 15, 20 minutes talking to him, and he had just ran the first leg of it, the first 8 hours on the Rubicon, and it was amazing being next to him, hearing that thing go by when it was in pure electric mode, and definitely great conversations. You could talk while the thing was running and stuff like that. And I've done several off-road events with 4xEs along. Consumers are showing up with them now, so it's a whole different conversation. Obviously, I'm going to talk about suspension when they're around me, right? But we talk Jeeps when we're out there. I mean, I'm an enthusiast. You're an enthusiast. You got a JK. I mean, come on, right? So it's neat. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm really interested in buying a 4xE myself as well. The rebate helps too. So, but yeah, it's a direction I think as an industry, not only the OE industry, but the performance aftermarket industry is heading. It's just who's going to get on that train and keep riding along.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to touch on that real quick with the performance side of it. It's proof in the pudding, right? And the proof in the pudding is, can consumers see the EVs perform out in the desert or on the trail? And now they're enamored on, hey, that could be me out in the UP or St. Helen or wherever the case may be. The other side of it too, like as a dealer group, we're embracing EV at its fullest. It's not, some dealers can kind of hide away from a little bit and just kind of go when things are in momentum, but to be at the tip of the spear with that and embracing it, this past year we went through 7 different acquisitions for the LaFontaine Automotive Group. One of them was Polestar. Polestar, taking that particular brand and having a brand and be able to represent 5 different states with Polestar as a performance luxury segment, and showing like there's someone else other than Tesla that's able to provide a vehicle. You know what I'm saying? And we're really excited about the commercial and fleet aspects of EV because that's going to be a huge thing. Like right now, like in Michigan, we got 2 Amazon hubs and they got a whole fleet of EV transport vehicles that we work on too. And it's one of those things where people are going to get a lot more comfortable with it, but they have to see the proof in the pudding. They also have to have infrastructure. Infrastructure is so important, right? Like you see gas stations, and we're just trying to imagine: are there going to be electric charging stations everywhere? Are they going to be at their home, in offices? Is the municipalities going to participate in that? As dealers, we want to have charger stations provide to our consumers that buy the EVs from us, and to provide that demand.
I travel a lot, right, for work. So leaving the state of Michigan, which is the Motor City, right, and going out to different states like California, You know, everything on the left side is especially, and you see a lot more charging stations out there. I mean, just in weird spots, you're like, there's a car wash here and a Tesla charging station. What the heck? Well, it's a much different paradigm when you leave the state of Michigan. No doubt about it. So.
Well, and even then, from a degree on solar charging and all of that stuff, like, that's a big piece that we want to be out there doing, right? That's why we've been putting the solar chargers out on trails, is because we know there aren't always enthusiasts, you know, with a park within 15 minutes of a major metro city, but you still have to charge up your vehicle and enjoy it in electric mode. So yeah, I agree with everything y'all just said. And thankfully, we've got great dealer partners like yourselves that are making that investment and a commitment to it, because again, it's not just Jeep, at a broader scale, to support our customers, right, at the end of the day.
Well, one of the other things too that we have to, as a dealer body, we got to look at is the pre-owned implications of EV, right? There's been such a demand of, you know, people inquiring, hey, do you have this, do you have that? And we don't, right? And there isn't a, you know, and then the infrastructure with the training, having the specific lifts, you know, what do we do with these batteries? How do we recycle them? I mean, there's a lot of, you know, unknown questions right now, and as if we collaborate a lot more together with the OEM and the dealer body and give the consumers a voice, so that way we're heading down the right path as a compass, I think we could really bring this together pretty quickly and efficiently at the same time.
Are consumers pretty educated when they come into the store, Carl?
And sometimes they know more than my salespeople. And
That is
that's
amazing.
That's a big thing with me, with our group, is that we want to ensure that salespeople can, you know, walk and talk at the same time, right? With the right information. Like here being at ForFest, we want to make sure that we have enthusiasts here in the booth to talk about wheeling. I mean, when we get people in the booth, it's having a conversation and connecting with them. You know, this culture that you guys were talking about earlier, I love it, man. I mean, you know, to have one rooftop tent here doesn't even give the event justice on, you know, the possibilities of overlanding and what that possibility is. Here in Michigan, it's not so prominent here compared to out west with overlanding, but you know, that's a whole nother segment that this type of event brings everybody together. We have conversations, and now we can meet the demand, you know, together as suppliers, OEMs, and retailers.
That's a good point. At Motorbella this past Tuesday, I believe it was your colleague Jeff Martinek?
Jeff Morentek.
Right, yes. Introduced the Expedition, the new Expedition. Was it the Trail Edition? I can't remember the package, the top end, high end.
Timberline.
Timberline. The fact that blew away the media was 60% of the sales are from millennials. Something unbelievable like that. So think about that. Millennials buying an Expedition. So obviously the brand is part there, but it's that overlanding type of authenticity experience, getting out and engaging with things like this. And your point, Carlos, about overlanding is probably a subset of this industry, off-road industry, but look how it's happening so quickly. Certainly overlanding, the expo is going on today out in Arizona, but look what's happening here as well. I mean, obviously you're out there as well. Ford and Bronco are out at Expo as well.
Yeah, we have a similar activation out at Overland Expo, and I mean, overlanding for the industry is a huge trend right now. I was just out in Colorado and Utah overlanding with a bunch of Bronco enthusiasts last week, and it was an awesome experience. I grew up overlanding when it was just called sleeping in your car.
Camping.
Yeah, camping.
That's good. That's good.
But it's awesome to see that it's bringing new people into the hobby, into the sport, and it's, you know, we're getting more people purchasing these types of vehicles and caring about off-roading.
Well, you know, to touch on that with the overlanding demand that we're starting to see, it's you know, it's the Gladiators, it's the F-150s, it's, you know, the Sierras, the Canyons, the Colorados. They're all getting bed racks, right, to put these rooftop tents in there. And then, you know, they're like, hey, can you upfit it with, you know, Rotopax holder and you know, fridges and everything else. And we can't right now, unfortunately, because we need to create those relationships and then find a great partner and make sure that we can install them correctly and everything. Just do our due diligence to ensure that we have a great experience and great product at the end. And that's the type of thing where, you know, some dealers are going to embrace it, some aren't, and that's fine. But we want to do right by our customers overall and just make sure we represent our partners well.
Absolutely. And no disrespect to Lindsay Hubley, but where's Z-Man, Tom Zielinski? Is he out here? She learned a heck of a lot from Tom over the years here, coming out here to ForFest and many times out at the Detroit Auto Show down at previous Cobo Hall TCF Center today. So yeah, Tom taught her a lot, and she's got that expo. So the point is, I think it grows the pie bigger. And the collaboration, in this case between Jeep and Bronco, is fantastic, and that's what consumers want. They want that choice, and it's not a disrespect to anybody. It really does raise the bar for the consumer, and that's what people want to see. Is kind of what used to be called play well together, if you will. So, but the ultimate, sleeping in your car, I love that, Esteban. Bivouacking, David, I mean, a soldier, if they take an EV out, they take a hybrid, I mean, they got to live with that vehicle, right? I mean,
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if they call it overlanding, but
what do they call it?
Overliving.
Some kind of detail.
but they stay with their vehicles a long time, and I've been in the vehicles out in Nevada, and after 2 days in some of those vehicles, I wish I had a more powerful air conditioning unit in there and some bedding or something else in the vehicle. So if anything we can draw from the commercial industry to say, hey, how can we make it a little more comfortable for the soldiers being out in the field with their vehicles for so many days, is a huge benefit for them. But yeah, I don't think of it as overlanding, but they just do it every day, and they're out there with those vehicles constantly, and maybe in the desert, maybe somewhere cold, and
And like Carlos was talking about, you take great brands and products like Yakima, and I know a lot of you guys are collaborating with Yakima and Thule and others, and I saw that for years at the SEMA show going on. But I can't imagine someone in the military having access to like one of the Yakima pup tents, if you will, to go on top of the vehicle. That'd be like luxury, right?
yeah, they would like it.
That'd be awesome. And being able to charge it like that with right off of a generator. I mean, pull up the Ford F-150 Lightning. I mean, we got to talk about that. I mean, the weddings that have been saved, like Gian mentioned yesterday, I heard about that, and that was big news. And certainly, 7.2 kilowatts?
Yeah.
You can power your shop, everything going on around there, basically with your shop, with a F-150 at 80 hours or something?
Yeah, no, it's an awesome capability that we have in the truck, and I think it's one of those things where electrification, we're bringing new features, new capabilities to customers, and that is something that is creating that demand that I was talking about, right? Because no longer is it a compliance vehicle, it is this awesome, very capable vehicle that can really save the day when there's a natural disaster, or when you're overlanding and camping. David, the point you made about all the electrified needs that the military has, I think we're seeing that on the customer side as well. When you look at what customers are demanding in the vehicle, its electrical upfit capability is a big thing. And so we spent a lot of time on Bronco, on the upfitter switches that we have in the vehicle, and we actually pre-wired wires throughout the vehicle to common accessory points so that it's that much easier for customers to add all those electrical accessories that we see in the marketplace today.
That's a big deal. I mean, if we look at our Ford operating bases, I mean, they have generators all over the place. If they can just drive up in their vehicles and use vehicles to power the small base, I mean, with some microgrid technology, I mean, you have a really nice setup just with the vehicles being essentially the power stations instead of dragging along separate diesel generators behind your vehicle.
And certainly the stealth operating factor, I mean, being quiet, has got to be a big advantage as well.
Yeah, so for like our special forces and stuff, fuel cell vehicles, electric vehicles are a big deal, and that quietness and having the power is important. But then if you look at our bigger Army fleets, right, because of the fact that we don't have infrastructure and we have to go anywhere in the world and fight and operate, then we're stuck with diesel and JP8 still to this day.
Yeah, and JP8 is the fuel that's pretty much common denominator.
Yeah. Yeah, and from a logistical perspective, since the Air Force uses so much fuel, JP8's the common, fuel for the battlefield. But obviously, we have to actually make sure the vehicles can run JP8, not just diesel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not as much power in JP8.
But electrons are electrons are electrons, right? It doesn't matter how you generate those. So
yeah, I mean, the problem with JP8 is, the manufacturing process isn't as clean as diesel, and so you get sulfurs and other things in there that kind of mess up engines, so you got to be careful when you're just pouring JP8 in a diesel engine.
Wow, amazing. I saw a headline the other day, and it said something to the effect of, does performance, in this case off-road racing performance, does it have 5 years left? With the advent of a lot of what we call ADAS, Advanced Driver Assist Systems, that are on board most of the vehicles today for a safety perspective, SE level 2 and 3, if you will. Electrification, particularly, getting into a lot of the vehicles. So does the industry have 5 years left? I'm glad to say that was a headline from SEMA News, 1971. And I think that's what's so telling about a lot of the great work you guys are doing at the automakers and suppliers and our government, is that it is alive and well and will continue. The biggest threat back in 71 in this article was fuel injection. End of the day, end of the year, end of our lives. Holly said we're going out of business because they made carburetors. How many carburetors they have? Unless you go to a NASCAR race, you don't even know what a carburetor is anymore. So that technology is alive and well. Let's kind of start with you. Let's go back to you, Nate. And some of the technology that you guys did, particularly with racing, the Hellcat, and then we'll get into the horsepower. 1,000 horsepower? Do consumers really need that?
Well, I think the nice thing about supply and demand is we just want to provide our consumers with everything that they want. And the good news is, on Hellcat, I worked on Hellcat for a while, our consumers loved it. They loved having 707 horsepower under the hood. Now, 797 and all the different options that are available, and even what we see in the Ram TRX as well. But that being said, on Jeep, it's all about customer diversity, right? Our customers out here, you look at the rigs, the vehicles that are out there, they're all different. Everybody wants to have their own special Jeep 4x4, and I guess for us, that's what we've tried to set out to provide. Whether you want something that is just on the street, maybe some light adventuring on the weekend, or you want to go crawl Rubicon Trail like we were doing, a month ago? I think that's the biggest piece that our industry has done a really good job of adapting. Is it's not just about delivering a one best fit that we as an OEM, any of the OEMs feel is a best fit for that customer. It's listening to our customers and building vehicles that they want to buy. And thankfully, there's a reason why all these vehicles are here piled up today, is because people love it and they want to have fun.
Absolutely, and giving the consumer what they want. And again, not so much a focus group, but going out to the Gemba and the front line saying, there's a market for this. We need to fill that niche and actually do that.
Well, and that's why we're here, right? I mean, our brand got its start from all the soldiers coming back from deployment and buying MBs at auctions, and they really kind of created the sport, created the hobby, and we've watched the military industry for a long time and how y'all package things and do some of the electrical accessory wiring and things like that. We use all of that as inspiration because we know those vehicles are engineered tough, and if there's some smart new way to crack the nut for our customers, we want to do it. And that's ultimately what we're always seeking. But that's ultimately what we learn out here too. There's so many great vendors, so many great customers that are just thinking of new and inventive ways to solve problems.
Absolutely, and performance sells. We'll get to that at the stores as well. But Esteban, I mean, the Mach-E, probably one of the biggest, I'd say, risks that Jim Farley has taken in building the Mach-E and what you ended up with, and the calling for that. I think Norway's #1 vehicle being sold, and for the Mach-E, I mean, that's tremendous.
Yeah, it's pretty neat to see how you can take an icon like the Mustang and apply electrification to it in a new format, and just see the customer response, which has been tremendous for the vehicle. So I think it's very indicative of the way the industry is going, as we've all touched on in previous questions. But to see the customer demand for the vehicle is awesome.
Absolutely. So in the LaFontaine group, are you seeing some of those vehicles? What do consumers come in and say? When can I get on the list? When can I get mine?
Yeah, it's all, right now it's about reservation, services right now provided by the OEMs. We're trying to make that very smooth for the guests, and before they hit the button to submit and put in their down payment, or the reservation costs, they want to be educated. They're consuming hours and hours of YouTube videos and Facebook posts and automotive news articles about these vehicles. And then when they come in, it's just a matter of, how do I put it together? What do I order? Do you think this looks good? I mean, they're asking for our advice on, how to personalize it. And one of the biggest things in what we've seen with the online platform or the reservation system, we had those conversations before the reservation system, right? And what we've really found is, like, consumers, these vehicles that they're purchasing now, especially with the demand how high and how hot it is right now, it's how they're identifying themselves with these vehicles. In Metro Detroit, we don't have mass transit like most cities do. So these vehicles are an extension of their lifestyle, extension of their identity, and where they want to drive, they it's all in alignment. And especially with the social aspect and the younger generation, that's more important than anything else right now.
Absolutely, that younger generation.
Oh my gosh! And
know.
What's really great about the younger generation is like they're not afraid to talk. they're so proud to post and educate, and it's great having suppliers and OEMs listening to that. You guys finding alliances with social influencers out there, giving direct feedback, giving them a vehicle, and let them tune it, let them customize it, let them upfit it, and just kind of seeing what they're doing. And now you have brand ambassadors that are just giving you direct feedback, but also propulsing your brand too. And as dealers, we're listening to that, and we want to ensure that we're stocking the right cars. Yes, we have daily drivers, but we also have lifestyle vehicles. And I really want to say lifestyle vehicles because it's not about just performance or racing or anything like that. It's these lifestyle vehicles where people want, 840 horsepower Gladiator, or they want, regular, JL or Bronco, and with capabilities where they can daily it if they want to, but also have that cool factor to them that satisfies their inner being.
Absolutely. A good friend of mine, Bo Bachman, out of Galpin Ford, and his dad taught him that, Bert, and it's so profound. It's win the customer, the consumer's hearts, sell more cars. So tying into that emotional connection to that. And you mentioned the cool factor, we'll get to that in a bit. But David, you've got a program down at Clemson University called Viper. So you're working with the next generation of motorheads and chip heads. And these kids are smart, some of the stuff they're doing. Tell us a little bit about that and how that fits into where some of the automakers and suppliers are going.
Yeah, so we engage quite a few universities, and Clemson is a big one. They have the International Center for Automotive Research there, and we've worked with them for years, but they have a program called Deep Orange 12, which is now involving autonomous race car driving, and they just recently unveiled that, and they're going to have an event in Indianapolis here shortly in October. And we're going to do actually Deep Orange 13. The U.S. Army is sponsoring Deep Orange 13, which will be a robotic combat vehicle. We'll do virtual prototyping, design it on the computer at the start, and do a lot of analysis up front to find out what the right mix of requirements and performance specifications are on that platform. And then we're actually going to build it and get it out there in the field. So we right now have robotic combat vehicles driving on courses just like this one back here. We're looking at what they can do from an autonomy perspective. So, and what we've seen is a steady progression of the technologies in terms of controls to get these vehicles to start negotiating off-road courses like this better and better. And so the virtual prototyping center we started at Clemson, it's a big effort, but they're going to end up developing one of these robotic combat vehicles, and we will do a lot of off-roading with that. So I'm looking forward to that event.
That is cool. There's a program going on with Special Operations Command. It's not too public, but Mouse McCoy working on it. We actually showed you the video of that, and it's an autonomous chase vehicle. But it's really cool because it was designed by Eric Miller, King of the Hammers winner, and a lot of the suppliers pulling together to make that into an EV eventually. But to actually be an autonomous chase vehicle and keep our soldiers, women and men, out of harm's way. I mean, amazing that technology coming from a lot of the private sector and you guys. The cool factor, you mentioned that, Carlos. Again, that headline I mentioned, and making racing and performance cool again. A lot of the stuff you guys are doing is actually keeping the industry alive, but more importantly, even growing it.
Yeah, the cool factor with us, and I think in the industry in general, is, can we be great listeners to see what's cool and what's not, right? But how do we also adapt and overcome, certain things that are happening with, the lifestyle right now is being outside, right? We talked about that. And how do we get, our identified vehicles that represent us outside, deeper in it, right? Enjoy it, and make it a lot more comfortable, but also have, just affordable overall. Like we work with, tremendous amount of lenders, and a lot of people don't understand how, you could really afford these vehicles, and leasing them, purchase options. It's much more flexible. So it's getting all these vehicles out on the road, and now they can go out and fulfill their dreams and ambitions on getting out on the trail and do whatnot. But the whole cool factor with the social has just pushed this so fast and so hard that, it's really tough to keep up with the demand. And obviously we got a chip shortage going on right now that kind of slows a little bit down. But, those types of things, we're going to overcome that. The manufacturers are going to overcome it. We're going to have vehicles for all dealers to sell and really just, fulfill this demand that we got going on right now.
Actually, being a good listener, I love that. I mean, good friend Ralph Gills over at Chrysler, FCA, Stellantis, all the names there. But Ralph has been there through all those. And he is a very good listener. When we see the brand equity he puts in, what he calls Easter eggs, into the vehicles, it's phenomenal. So this is kind of the last round. I'm going to give you guys each this last question. I'll get the same question, kind of what we posed to Dave and to Jake before they left. We're going to start with you, Carlos. What's the most important thing that this audience or your fellow colleagues up here, speakers, what do you need to take away from ForFest or the industry? What's happening? What's next?
Oh, the biggest takeaway is that, the lifestyle is prominent here in Michigan. And I think having great partners, people that are able to participate in ForFest and collaborate amongst all of us with manufacturers and retailers and suppliers, it's so powerful. It's opened our eyes. This is our first year officially being here. We want to be here next year again, participate. And, to really enhance and also support Hollyoaks too, this venue. This is really important to us as a dealer body. I'd like to say it on behalf of all our dealer bodies. This is a segment that provides a lot of income. If you look at all these rigs, they're not dailies, right? Yeah. They have other vehicles, right? And we want to be a good steward, for the dealer body. We want to be a good steward for the lifestyle, and I'm so happy to be here. It's been awesome.
Good, great to have you, Carlos. Esteban, final comments.
I think it's really interesting, this conversation around about the lifestyle. One of the interesting things I heard when we were figuring out how to bring Bronco back was talking with a video game company. They were saying that in-person events were a big focus of theirs. And very curious, perhaps a little bit, you wouldn't think that, but they said that bringing people together, these video game enthusiasts, to in real life events takes it from a casual hobby to that lifestyle. And so I think the same thing applies obviously to off-road, and having these events where enthusiasts can come together, where we can bring new people into the fold, educate them about responsible off-roading, I think is tremendously important, and something that Bronco is definitely going to continue to support.
Absolutely. I think with Bronco coming into the market segment, last I saw a 10% increase over the next 5 years for cars and trucks, SUVs and trucks, and that extremely brand loyal, if you will, and in this case, segment loyal as well for off-roading. So thank you. Mike.
So I'm listening to everybody talk here, and I hear a 10% increase and 20% in new brands and, cool factor. I think stewardship is very important, and a new audience of off-road enthusiasts. I guess I'm an OG now, which is crazy. I don't know how the heck that happened, but
No, you got a lot of gas left in the tank.
I guess, yeah. So we've got to, as the OGs, communicate the message to these new people. And I'm going to go on the record to say and encourage the OEMs to embrace Tread Lightly and to continue to work together with Tread Lightly. Don't let your brands divide you. And I would encourage not just the two OEMs that are up here, but all the OEMs and all the aftermarket companies, all the dealership networks to support the Tread Lightly message, because without them helping keep our trails open and being good stewards, guys, we're not going to have anything to sell. So that's my message today. I talked about my brand yesterday. I just want to talk about that, and I think that's the most important thing. Without that, because off-road parks aren't the only place to off-road. This glorious state of Michigan that I live in, we have trail systems like you would not believe, and we've got to keep those open. So please encourage your friends to join Tread Lightly, and I encourage the OEMs to follow that too.
Absolutely. Well, think about it. And what Z-Man Tom Zielinski created with the DNR, MEDC, State of Michigan, Oakland County Parks, everything. It took a lot to get to this point, and it wouldn't be here without the collaboration of all of you up here. David, final comments.
So if I say I don't know what OG means, it means I'm OG, right?
He's an original gangster.
There you go.
No, so many things I could say, but I tell you, one of the wonderful things that happened to me and my family, kind of a with the COVID thing and everything and not traveling so much, we ended up getting in the car and going up north and just exploring, hitting all the beaches, camping, tenting. Sometimes we went up north, we didn't even know where we were going to stay, right? It's like, oh, we're just going to find a place to stay and figure it out. So that vehicle becomes really, really important, you know, at that. And that's a whole thing that it's been so wonderful for my kids to, just, experience that. You're relying on your vehicle for power and warmth some nights, and otherwise you're in the tent and you got to make a fire, and you got to figure out how to charge all the iPhones and iPads because all those come with us, right? So it's been a great experience, but I think it's a great event. This is my first time here, seeing what's in the back. I do this for the Army every day, worrying about off-road mobility and things like that. But I also see that there's this culture commercially and people doing this overlanding, which we don't think of it as that, as I said. But a great event, and makes me think about all the new technologies coming out there that we're incorporating these platforms and how we can do it better, especially when you're just going somewhere out up north and trying to find a good place to stay, and you're relying on your vehicle for so many different things. So anyway, thanks, John.
Glad to have you here, David. And final comments, and our big sponsor here, Jeep. So Nate, final comments.
Absolutely. I think for us, everybody here has said so many great words about it. I guess two big things I would focus in on. The first being education. Whether it's tread lightly and using our trails responsibly, everybody here loves the outdoors. We want to preserve it not just for our next generation, but the generation after them. We want to get more people out there too. Tell your friends, take your friends out there, take your friends' kids out there, because to your point on exploring, it's just an addiction. Once you're out there, adventure never stops, and it's around every corner. And I think that's a big thing for us. Whether it's finding campsites through the Michigan DNR or, our great partners in Onyx and finding trails in your area. Download the Onyx app and you can find trails all over this great state or this great nation. That's a big piece of it. But the other big part I would say that I think you touched on very well is the editorial side of it. Is tell your story. Talk about how great this is when you're out there. Pull your cell phone out and record yourself, because quite frankly, it's just as good as many productions from when I grew up, at least. But tell that story out there of what the outdoors means to you, what you can go out there and find, because it's not just the beauty of Michigan. Well, I love it. It's the mountains in Moab. It's going up into Maine and hunting through those forests. It's such an intoxicating experience, and all the great vehicles out here, especially the Jeep vehicles, will definitely empower that for you. So I would push everybody to get out there and tell that story, and just get out there and have some fun. That's what this is. This event is fun. Tom, props to him, has built an amazing experience here over the past few years. It was the first event that we could do coming out of the peak of COVID last year. This is just a great way to experience it and get your start, but there are millions of miles of trails out there to explore. So,
And amazing beaches here in Michigan we found. We never realized so many beaches.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things I want to kind of wrap things up here, but basically, off-roading is basically, I'm going to call it kind of the birth of customization and making it mine and all that. And Detroit is actually the birthplace of the middle class. And it really got summed up well. It was actually a commercial that Ralph helped with Chrysler quite a few years ago, and it was Bob Dylan put together. He said, Detroit made cars and cars made America. And it's so great, and Gian made the point about the domestics being here. It's so cool to have you guys here today. Let's make America great, continue off-roading, and thank you all for being here. Take care.
Thank you.
thanks.